I'm Drew Fennell. I'm the Chief Officer for Strategic Communication and Development at Christiana Health System. And I was Governor Markell's final Chief of Staff and worked in and around his administration for about 5 years, but knew him for a number of years before that and was a big supporter of his political career and of him as a person. He's a wonderful human being. My relationship to Jack is that it's been really varied. I was an advocate for civil rights, for gay rights, for people who were incarcerated, and he was very interested in those issues and was an enormous supporter early on in some of those movements here in Delaware, at least for me.
And for about 10 years, my friends and I, we spent time every Saturday morning playing basketball and then having a good conversation about life. I told Jack to come, bring your shorts, play some ball, and then let's break bread. And he played, and then he sat down and rapped, and it didn't feel like a man running for office. That to me said a lot about how he was going to be as a governor, and I think it proved true over time.
People are not defined, to me, by Democrat or Republican. I don't even play that game. That's not in the sense of definition. If I voted for anybody, it certainly would be Jack Markell, simply because he's honest, he's got integrity, and he's not full of a lot of BS and political promises and machinations and all that stuff. He's just a real person who thinks that he can lead, and he's proven it because he has led.
Really, his unflinching willingness to call a thing a thing. In Southern culture, we would say call a spade a spade. He has not shied away from speaking truth, from challenging people in positions of power. He himself has been challenged and has not shied away from really going beneath the surface to really try to understand the complexities of the conditions that oppress the most marginalized people in our state and in our nation. So for that reason, I am a huge fan of Governor Markell.
He came into office in 2008 at the same time that Barack Obama came in, so the country was in terrible shape, financially and otherwise. So it was really a very challenging time for any elected officials, but also for the governor.
And Jack was hit pretty strongly with those issues as people throughout the state began to have those conversations and began to open up about their feelings with regard to those kinds of issues.
Thing that people don't realize, under Jack's leadership, the economy went up. We became in the top 10% as a small state in terms of economic growth, with JP Morgan Chase coming in and all that, and the expansions. And we had been in the bottom, but then we were back in the top. Now, call it Republican, Democrat, whatever. I call it building and developing relationships.
As time went on, watching the work that he was doing with regard to financial literacy, particularly with regard to ensuring that women in the state of Delaware were financially literate, financially independent, were made aware of the different financial issues that they would need to be aware of to keep themselves living a good quality of life. I also began to pay attention to that. As a female, those things make a difference. Serving on the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League Board, recognizing that there was a need to really address parity and equity issues in the state of Delaware, and seeing Jack's commitment to doing that really began my serious support of Jack.
The interesting part is, too, that people forget a lot of times that Governor Markell was the one that introduced that whole thing of bringing persons with disabilities into government, because a lot of times we think of the discrimination being black, white, whatever, but they were totally being discriminated against, and he had a huge program to bring persons with disability into state positions, as well as the LGBT community. But I don't consider that a disabled. I just consider that a discriminatory practice. But he has, like Ray said, he's jumped on that.
Got a lot of pushback in all of those areas, but it was never unclear to me that he was passionate about what he was doing, that it really was trying to create access points for all children, not just some children. And he wanted to do it in a way that I thought that was fair and equitable. And I think he made a lot of progress, by the way. But the process for me showed me a lot of who Jack Markell was.
If I had to describe it with 3 words, ooh, that's hard. I have a really big vocabulary. Come on, man. And he's a complicated guy. If I had to use 3 words, he is smart, he is courageous, and he is kind. He's very certain that there is a problem-solving methodology that you should be bringing to the table. And I think, if there's a thread that runs through all the things he cared about while he was in office, whether it was education, economic development, the drug epidemic, any kind of substance use disorder, reentry, civil rights for LGBT people, voting rights, all of those things have one thing in common, and it's opportunity. I think, if there's one thing I know that he believes deeply, it's that everyone should have the opportunity to live to their full potential and to give to the society everything.
I was one of the promoters of his candidacy for the Lewis Redding Lifetime Achievement Award. And I did that because I know his background, and I know that he promoted justice and racial justice and equality in the way that Lewis Redding did when he was a lawyer advocating and fighting against segregation.
Lewis Redding was a man of conscience in a really important time in our nation's history, and set a standard by which we all should be striving. And I think Jack Markell has, in his own way, set similar standards for himself, for his family, and for others and his fellow man.
Any of the other names here, whether it would be Thurgood Marshall or whether it would be excellence in education, whatever, you could actually combine all of those for Governor Markell. However, the one that he got, or the one that he is being awarded, I think is because he never gave up. He would probably say to him, I'm really glad you got this award, Jack, but you got a lot more to do, so let's be about that business.
Thank you for your sacrifice, Governor Markell. We love you, we respect you, we admire you, and we're humbled to be able to just celebrate you.
I think if there's a legacy he leaves, it's that we should approach every problem as a way to build opportunity for the people that we serve if we're in government, or that we serve if we practice law or medicine or work in any space, right?